power. You kill the youth. You kill that warrior spirit in the youth by putting guns in their hands and drugs in their hands, no jobs for them. Then you pit them against each other. So everywhere I have gone, it's the young who are killing each other to the joy of our enemies. So what you raised, you would never sit on a good message. You heard it just a week or so ago, and you said, wow, Farrakhan said these things 27 years ago, and we have not acted. Not you. Your generation is the generation to act, and it is the acting of a young generation, a new generation, a generation that is not tied to false power. The Westminster system of government is not right for us. It's okay. It's a transition to when we become truly independent. As long as the Queen is the boss, well, you're not totally free. As long as their system of government is our system of government, we're not totally free. If we can go in and put a wig on our head to give justice to the people, whose head is that? Whose wig is that? Whose mind is that? Whose spirit is that? That's the spirit of the same people that enslaved our fathers and colonized us. We have to be severed from that completely. But this is transition. We're on the way. No, Mose, you will lead.
Honorable Minister, before we go to break, when a part of this Belize trip is really a part of a bigger process of to get the Caribbean to come together. We look to South America and we see where there's been a strong wind of change, where the people's powered agenda has really taken root in governance in Venezuela, Bolivia, even Argentina. We look, but we look in the Middle East and we see the winds of change. But when we look to the Caribbean and we look to Central America, we seem not to be on that rhythm. We seem to be, like you have some people who like the song but can't catch the beat. Well, it seems like we're not catching the beat, Honorable Minister.
Yes.
What message do you have to leaders of CARICOM, leaders of SICA, about catching the beat, about realizing that the old way of thinking about your little personal territory and your little ego, you must have some humility in leadership and see that there's a better way for your people.
I'm looking at you, my brother, and I see the future. I'm encouraged by the way you question me. I'm encouraged by your spirit. Your spirit is the spirit of the future. I was in Jamaica, and I met with Mr. P.J. Patterson, the former Prime Minister. I met with Edward Seaga, the former Prime Minister, and I talked or asked the question about the unity of the Caribbean. I said, well, Mr. Seaga said he never thought that that would happen. Mr. P.J. Patterson, beautiful brother, he said it's possible. I was in Barbados. I met the Prime Minister, the opposition leader, and I see that spirit. They're beginning to realize no island and none of these little small nations in Central America can survive independent. So you get your little flag. You get your seat on the United Nations, and you feel, yes, we sing our national anthem. I read the beautiful national prayer of Belize. But prayers unanswered mean nothing. When you pray, then what? You must get up and act on the words of your prayer, and with the help of the God that you're praying to, your unity will accomplish the goal. So I can tell you, brother, the Caribbean will not survive unless there's unity. I was in Cuba. Cuba is a great nation, but suffering tremendously from the embargo of the North. Why do they suffer? They suffer because Fidel Castro took the land from the rich, who dispossessed the poor and worked the poor for the riches of a few to the detriment of the many. Fidel Castro felt this was unjust. He rose. If you ask Fidel Castro, what are you? He looks white. He says, I'm mestizo. Well, we have all of these ranges now of color. You have the mestizo, you have the mulatto, you have the Creole, you have the Indian, the Asian, the Arab, the white, the black, all here, all in Central America. British colonized this. Britain enslaved this. So we speak English. But we have to teach Spanish. We have to teach French, because if we don't know the language, we can't unite this beautiful Central America. And if we know Spanish, if we know French, then we can take the whole of the Caribbean, including Cuba. And when you look at the Caribbean, how it washes Venezuela, it washes Guyana, it washes Colombia, it washes the one next to Guyana. Wait a minute.
You gotta go to them.
Suriname. Thank you. All of these countries I was blessed to visit, and everywhere I leave a message. You know, you heard a message that I spoke 27 years ago. I could be dead now, but the message lives. That's the important thing. And when you heard it, you knew it was a call to you and your generation and a younger generation to rise up and make a difference. And that's happening all over the world. So now in the Caribbean, I left a message of unity of the Caribbean. Jesse Jackson one day said, "It is better to be the tail of something than the head of nothing." So here we are, the head of a little place. And we feel good, you know, I'm the prime minister, I'm the foreign minister, I'm this, I'm that. But only when there's a federation of these nations coming together that we'll have the power to throw off the yoke that has kept us in the condition where we are. So I pray. How old are you now, sir?
I'm 42.
Beautiful. You know, Moses got his mission when he was 40. So you are in the age now to accept leadership. You have it in your heart. You have it over the airwaves. Translate the airwaves now into all of the wonderful people in this most conscious radio station. Make them to come up now, organize them, and become a power to change reality. And with Sister Sharon at your side, and the thousands of Sharons that are out there that are seeing their children die. Over 500 murders in 4 years in Belize
City.
Belize City. We got to stop this. But we have the power to do it if we work together. I would love, while I'm here, before they go to break and the airwaves are open for your questions, dear brothers and sisters, and particularly the pastors, the imams, you are the potential freers of the minds of your people. Pastors, we have to come together on that true gospel of Jesus, or the true teachings of the Quran, and become a unified spiritual force to ignite the people. Rastafari, all of us who believe in a superior power, we must come together and unite the people. The future is not in the hands of government. The future is in our hands if we seize it and go to work. You have inspired me this morning just by your questions and your statements.
You flatter me.
I don't believe in flattery. But I'm seeing
thanks very much.
and I'm feeling a leader
I am honored.
coming to birth.
Honorable Minister, with your permission, we go to break.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with more with Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan here inside the WUB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibe.
I must say that I owe a deep debt of gratitude to the Caribbean. For the Caribbean gave me my father, my mother. I will never feel that I've done the job that God brought me here to do unless I complete my journey, my life's journey, with some help and guidance to the Caribbean that gave me life.
There's an old saying, for every disappointment, there is a great opportunity. And many people in Belize were surely disappointed in December when the Farrakhan visit was cancelled. Well, Belize, he's on his way back, and not for 3, but for 6 days, March 4 to 9.
There comes a time in every man and woman's life. You have to make up your mind, because the future depends on how strong we are with God and how strong we are on the principles of truth. See, when you can say, I fear God, and fear Him alone, you're free.
This time, the minister will address students of the University of Belize in Belmopan, inmates of the Central Prison, meet and dialogue with community activists, leaders of the Mennonite community, and towards Spanish Lookout, address the Muslim community, and returning for his 3rd time to historic Birds Isle in Belize City for a major public address.
We have to look in the mirror of truth and recognize that we are not yet free. Real fight is going to have to take place in order for us to be free, and we're going to have to take on power that keeps us in this condition.
Belize, this you won't want to miss. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, known as the universal voice of hope and vision.
All right, 16 minutes away from 9 o'clock on this Tuesday morning, extraordinary Tuesday morning inside the WB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes, as we are very honored to have with us this morning the leader of the Nation of Islam, Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who's been with us since 8 o'clock, and he'll be here with us until 9, and we'll see if we can squeeze in a couple questions. Before we start to accommodate the questions, first of all, let me say to the mighty Lord Rayburn that Minister Farrakhan is thoroughly enjoying your WUB song. And Honourable Minister, before we start to accommodate the calls, we find very often in Belize, and maybe it's similar in other small nation states, that we tend to be very local with the things that we are engaged in, or local politics or local challenges. If we were to begin talking about regional issues or global issues here on our talk show, people might not be so involved. But it's important for us to put our challenges in the context of what is taking place around the globe. And one of the incidents that I think we took very little notice of and have very little understanding of is the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. And in fact, most of my enlightenment on the issue has come through what I've watched and listened to on YouTube with your presentations. For the benefit of our listeners and viewers and for ourselves, could you just, as best you can, because I imagine it's difficult to put an issue like that in just a small time frame, but as best you can, tell us what that meant for us as a people.
Muammar Gaddafi is an Arab Muslim, but he recognized that black people would come to the forefront in the future. And in his green book, he talked about blacks prevailing in the world. Excuse me. So he wanted to see Africa united from the Cape to Cairo. 53 nations as one great nation. This was the hope of Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah. It was the hope of Mr. Padmore from Trinidad. It was the hope of Marcus Garvey. Now, Gaddafi went to work with oil dollars, and he inspired revolutions and helped revolutions all over the world. So he was hated by the government of the United States and England and those former great colonial powers. Gaddafi, he was my brother and a friend. That man had engineers and scientists who found water under the desert. He spent over $30 billion bringing water up out of the desert and bringing water from Benghazi all the way almost to the Tunisian border. And that land, that desert, began to become green. He bought tractors and implements of cultivation and offered land to the Libyan people if they were willing to farm. I was with him when our hands, his hand, Brother President Jerry John Rawlings' hand, the President of Niger, and my hand, when we touched a button that caused the water to spring up and flow. That man had a country with no debt. He used the money of oil and was building infrastructure. No Libyan was without an apartment, without a home. No Libyan. He took oil money and gave the Libyans every year a stipend from oil. He sent his people to study all over the world at the expense of the Libyan government.